here's a few words from our sponsors.
This is where you start making money. So listen up.
There's no blind guessing with MMPs.
Was the money a user generated inside your app more than the amount of money you paid to acquire them? We're going to go step by step through each part of the user acquisition journey.
APIs,
Post-install events,
ARPU, UR, and ER. There is potential for your monetization strategy to do even better.
Let's dive in.
Hey game developer, are you looking for great new authentic video creatives? Try something totally new with influencer generated content IGC by Opera Event. Influencers and actors will make specific creative content for your games. An Opera Event will deliver you high quality video ads that highlight the best parts of your game. Go to getigc.com to see some examples and get more information. That's getigc.com. All the developers out there that are looking for an easy game server auto-scaling solution should definitely check out GameEye. Choosing GameEye means choosing your players, as GameEye is a platform-independent solution. Game sessions are spread out over multiple providers to ensure redundancy and to achieve the best possible coverage in every region of the world. GameEye is your one-stop shop for all your server orchestration needs. They have many integrations already in place, ready to go. You also can connect to your favorite matchmaker, anti-cheat solution, or network optimization tool to their orchestrator and start running game sessions. They provide the APIs for this. Take advantage of automated capacity management and always have resources to run game sessions. Scale when you need it in locations close to your players. Check out GameEye.com, that's GameYE.com, to see what they're up to and to connect with them.
Okay, I think we can start. We have a lot to cover today. So welcome everybody to this webinar with Jesse and me. So Jesse is the founder and CEO of GeekLab, a Helsinki-based startup who's helping mobile companies who are doing apps and games to actually test concepts early on, and also to do a lot of app store optimization, a lot of tests. I think it's better that you hit the floor and start explaining what you guys do. Yes, and if you can give a short introduction, and then we can go into your presentation before we go to Q&A section here.
Sure, sounds great. Yeah. Thanks a lot for having me here. Really happy to talk about my favorite topic of all time, testing. And it's sad the situation is like it is. This would actually be the first time around that I'm having a webinar with someone who's practically 20 kilometers or so away from where I am, but unfortunately we still have to do this online, but from different locations. But yeah, thanks a lot for having me. So yeah, I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO of a company called GeekLab. I have a couple of slides that go into detail on what we mean by App Store optimization, and what that is that we actually help developers to optimize. We do have sort of two sides to our company. So one is the technology that we have that allows us to do these tests, and then with that technology we obviously have a lot of data and tests going on our platform. So we're then also able to utilize those learnings and aggregate that data, and then we have sort of the consultancy side of our company as well, where we actually go pretty hands-on, helping companies from big listed companies to early stage startups looking to get their first funding round in shape. We are quite hands-on helping them on finding out the best ways to actually market their game and find the themes and whatnot. It's a big topic, so yeah, we definitely have a lot of things to discuss today.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you should have a permission to share the screen. So go
That's
ahead.
brilliant. Let me see how this thing goes. Let's see. Share my screen. I'm gonna share my entire screen. Hopefully, I
Yes,
won't
I can
share
see
anything.
it.
Yes, brilliant. So cool. ASO A/B testing. Not to talk. I already went through this part. Just a brief background. So like half of the Finnish gaming industry, my background in the gaming industry is from Rovio, and I was there doing product marketing for quite a while for titles. The latest one that I worked really closely with was Angry Birds Dream Blast, and then I did some partnerships with brands like Super Bowl and Iron Maiden. So really got like a good grasp of what mobile marketing was from Rovio, and that's actually also where I felt like there was a need for a product like ours, and that's why we started GeekLab in the first place. But cool. So ASO, App Store optimization, is the thing that we're practically focused on, and what that means in a nutshell is that and what we mean by it is that there's multiple channels where the users come to your app, right? So it can be any of the ad networks, organic appeal, influencer marketing, just word of mouth, or even people just searching for specific keywords in the app stores. And despite like where the users come from, they still have to download your app from that app page. So multiple different channels, but only one or like per device practically where users can download your app from. And usually when people talk about ASO, you often think about ranking higher in the search rankings and actually optimizing your app store performance. And that's usually done by changing the keywords and description and title and all of this stuff. And what this does is that it helps you to get more visibility on the search rankings. But that's not actually what we help companies to do. What we focus on in terms of ASO is more, if you would work that out, like App Store conversion optimization, meaning that like whomever out of all those different channels, whomever ends up on your App Store page, those users will convert as good as possible to installs with as good quality as possible. So here's Gardenscapes, for example. So this is the situation, right? So there's over 300 creatives up and running in Facebook USA alone for Gardenscapes. That's quite a lot. And then when you multiply that with all the multiple acquisition channels, so there's a lot of different paths how users can end up on your page, and it can be really difficult to optimize and A/B test basically things on your store page and make sure that wherever the users come from, they convert to downloads, and that's truly where we help as a company. And how do we do that? So in short, we have this technology in place that basically allows you to send traffic to our test pages from any source that supports a tracking link. So this will exclude sources like universal app campaigns where you actually have to have an actual app where you attribute all your traffic into, but everything that supports a URL is something that we support as well. And you can send traffic to our test pages, which is then where we like check all the behavior that happens in there, not only the amount of clicks, but how the users behave, how do they scroll, what elements on the page do they click, how much do they engage with the page, and all of this stuff. And what this technology actually is, it's basically a lookalike page of the App Store, Google Play, and currently we also support Steam store pages. So you have the capability of running these A/B tests on these store pages. And then once the user clicks the download button, so then we can redirect them to a new location. And this can basically be if you have an app out that you're optimizing the performance of. So you can send the user then to the real App Store or Google Play page to make them eventually convert to real downloads. Or then if you're doing this test like validation that we're talking more about today. So we have a tool as well to support that, which is our survey lab, where you can then do, ask qualitative questions from your audience, get deeper understanding of their motivations. What do they expect from the title based on the advertisement material you've seen so far, and basically any placement is good. So if you want to drive them to your landing page, you can also do that as well. But yeah, that's in short the technology, and we allow you to optimize and edit all the elements on the store pages. So you can do A/B tests for any of the elements. Just quickly going through, I know these questions get asked a lot. So what are the main elements that actually can make the difference on the pages? So it's very visual. So the icon is definitely one of the biggest placements, and the screenshots and video are the ones that have the biggest impact by far, especially on the iOS App Store. But then we've also seen tests where you optimize, for example, the title and subtitle, and that title and subtitle can also have a big impact on the conversion rate as well. So it's truly a holistic page as well that you have to optimize elements separately and together to find the best converting solution. And like I said, we have like over 60 elements on the page that you can actually modify. So anything and everything can truly be tested, and should be as well. And yeah, like mentioned earlier, like there's two main cases for our platform. One is optimization of live products. So you have your one marketing message like that you found work really well, and then you want to see what is the best App Store creatives that can actually support that marketing message and improve your performance. But then the other part that we're going to talk a bit more about today is really validating the marketability of your concepts way before you would otherwise be able to do that without our solution. But cool. I think that's I have a couple of case studies and things like that we can come back to at some point if we want. Yeah, happy to jump into the deep discussion now.
Yes, you had a case from Rovio, which was really interesting. I think that it really illustrated what is sort of like a test case, and what are sort of like the improvements. What are the metrics that you look at when you say that, hey, this is better? Like, right. That would be interesting to take a look at.
Yeah, I can show that immediately and also go through the metrics themselves. So this is a case study we did about a year ago, actually, with the Rovio. This was title called Phoenix Rangers. Unfortunately, this particular game didn't see the better part of soft launch, I guess. So it does not exist anymore. But practically it was a puzzle RPG game where the IP was built around these monsters, and then the game itself had protagonists that like at that stage looked like this, and the main question was that could there be a better art style that would support better marketability metrics and therefore also then improve the retention in the game if the characters are something that the players can relate more into. So the main metric in this particular test that we took a look at was the IPM, which means installs per mil. So it's taking into account both the amount of users who click the ad and the amount of users who then, out of those who click the ad, click the download button on the actual App Store page. And how the test was done was that we had 5 different versions of art styles, and for each of those, we had a different Facebook ad, and each of those ads went to a different GeekLab App Store page, so that we were able to measure the full funnel. The main reason that it's because someone could think that, okay, why don't we just then do the Facebook stuff and leave GeekLab out of the picture is, and this is something that I actually learned really like from my times at Rovio, and especially working with Angry Birds, is that when user clicks the ad, there's multiple reasons why that can happen, especially with Angry Birds. Whenever there was something like brand new, something that felt a bit different from what you've regularly seen with the Angry Birds IP. So the CTR on the ads, so the amount of clicks always went up. But that didn't mean that the users had the intent ever to actually download the app. So they just, clicked and wanted to find a bit more about what this whole thing was about, and then left the page. So if you wouldn't have the GeekLab page in the mix, you would actually make the exact wrong decision based on just the top of the metric, because you really want to see what the intent of those users was when they clicked the download button. So therefore, in this case as well, we had each of those App Store pages for each of those ads separately, and each of those ads directed to those pages, so that we were able to measure the full funnel. These were the creatives. I know you've now seen the end result, so I can't do the questionnaire, but maybe do we have the chat open? Can people actually type in stuff?
Yes, they can, and they can do Q&A as well. So like people just can start putting Q&A into the Zoom, and we're going to go through those in a bit.
Right. Yeah. So something that's quite fun is that we always ask, like, okay, here were the 5 alternatives. Which one of these performed the best? The target audience was in the States, but leaning towards RPG. Yeah. These were the alternatives, and out of these specific ones performed really well. So compared to the control ones, so where we started from, the IPM increased by 15%. So meaning that like now for each 1,000 impressions, you got 15% more installs, and at the same time the cost for each individual install decreased by 20%. These often go in hand. So as the IPM increases, the CPI goes down, which is obviously great. But yeah, so that was a really interesting finding, and this is actually sums up quite nicely the flow on these marketability tests, just like you mentioned. So regardless of what the content of the test is, whether it's the art style or the theme or the sometimes it can be as deep as the UI elements. You try out like different mockups of the actual UI and see how that affects the marketing appeal. So the flow is more or less the same. You do the same, let's go back a bit. So you do the ads on one level where you make sure that the variable is what you actually want to test, and then the App Store is reflecting that, and then you can measure the whole funnel.
Brilliant.
Cool.
Can you talk about like how do you measure CPI actually, since people aren't installing anything? How do you do that?
So and by the way, like regarding CPI, that's a metric that's quite saturated always. So often what we do recommend to do is to do A/B tests, right? So you have variants and you measure their performance against each other. And how we measure the CPI is that we, in Facebook, in example, we allow you to utilize Facebook Pixel, so that like when the user clicks the install button, they are redirected shortly to a landing page, which will fire the event back to Facebook, and then you can optimize the traffic towards on Facebook towards that specific event, which is much like the mobile app install campaigns. And then you actually get also a figure for how many of those landing page views you got with a certain budget, and that's kind of what we cross-check as CPI.
Yeah, right. That's very interesting. Like there's a question here. Please send all the questions into the Q&A, which is in Zoom. How many variations do you usually create, and what is the methodology for creating these variations? And no worries for putting it into the chat. Can you talk about the variations?
Right. So usually we tend to limit those to 5. The reason is that the more there is, the bigger impression cohorts you need and to get statistical confidence, and you actually have to put quite a lot of budget in the media to make that happen. So limiting usually those to 5 or 4. And in terms of the methodology to create these variations is that it always starts from the audience research and truly understanding like who you're after and what are the motivations that you like they might want to like get out of your game or app. And after you've done that, so then you build hypotheses on how can you communicate these different motivations and key selling points through these creatives and variants. And regarding art style tests, we often also, parents might have told you not to look at others while you do your stuff, but it doesn't hurt to look at the competitors a bit and see what's proven to be correct. So in art style tests as well, like you take a look at the market, you see what's proven. You might have strong hypotheses around ideas around something, and then that's where the tests come from. You have your ideas, and then with the tests you validate it, whether or not that makes sense.
You steal like a pro. That's how you get like good variants. I have a few, like just take what's working. There's a few questions that I prepared when I was looking at the material and going through kind of like my thoughts, putting together this webinar with the topic of how developers could actually test concepts before they commit to building a game. I have a few things here that I wanted to talk about. First off, like how do you break down this workflow of the test? What does the game developer need to take care of, and what is taken care of GeekLab in order to do these tests? Right.
So good question. So in short, there's two, like I mentioned, there's two sides to our company. So one is the platform that's needed to be able to do these tests, and the other side is the consultancy. So talking in a way the developer would do anything, but the platform is the best way to describe how this flow goes. What we can do is to do all of these things, but it's always up to discussion. But the usual workflow for a test like this is, like just mentioned, it always starts from the audience research. So understanding like who you're aiming for, and after that you build your hypothesis around like based on the research that you've done, and like in example, this is something that we really love to do as well. So usually when we do the audience research, what we do is that we go we kick things off by looking at the market and the biggest competitors in there. We take a look at what are the main motivations that they are currently selling. We just did a research for Narrative Puzzle the other week, and for example, there was quite clear value propositions that they were selling, which was I might have to pull up that document real quick, just a second, so that I'm not lying to you guys, but actually giving valuable information. This is, by the way, something that we can also drop this narrative match tree overview that we can drop to you guys if you want to share that afterwards.
Like,
but
happily sharing all the material on elite game developers, whatever you can share. Yes, so we can put them up on the site. So
brilliant. We'll share that for sure. But quickly looking at it, it was as obvious as renovating. So you might have seen these on the screenshots, right? So I think Homescapes or Playrix was the first one who did this, but like the split screen and you say renovate and like showing the visual progression of the progress that you can actually do in the game. So that was, for example, one clear thing that we saw on the market that everyone was doing. So one of the hypotheses would be, okay, let's try to put that up to our world and our title. But then from that comes also like opportunities. So you can see things that you don't have on that specific market and build hypotheses around that. And hybrids is also a good way of looking at it. You might have a title that's tapping into a couple of audiences, so take something from another genre that might work really well and apply that on yours. then you go into designing these assets. This is something that people often find quite scary and for a reason, because it can be quite resource heavy to do all these things. But you can be quite smart here as well. So what we've done is in example, a theme test that can be really resource heavy, right? So you have to do a lot of different creatives for different themes. So what you can do is that you can for example, pre-purchase something from the Unity Asset Store or the Unreal Marketplace, where you have a certain art style. For example, we know that there's a brilliant low poly library available on the Unity Asset Store. If you are validating the theme and you want to see, okay, whether or not like a sports related, F1 theme would work better in this particular meta game, or is it a RPG title that we're looking for? So you can utilize these assets to validate that theme, and that's the first step. Once you've done that, then you can actually go into then polishing the art styles and doing tests for the art itself. But there's don't overthink this part. Just make sure that the only difference between the variants is the actual thing that you want to measure. Then it's about running the test, usually through Facebook. That's because you can do interest-based targeting and hone down to your the target audience quite well. And then once you've done that, it's about analyzing what went down and then doing a follow-up based on it. And it's a continuous cycle, right? So I personally love this cycle. It's so exciting to see how users behave, because it's usually quite the opposite of that what you think would actually happen. So you do these things with specific audiences, and then you find more and learn more, and it's a cycle that just keeps on going.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. I think like one approach that I wanted to take here is like the small studio that has soft launched a mobile game, and their retention day one isn't like, it's not high. It's something like 30%, 35%. And they're thinking about like, hey, could GeekLab help us with this to actually like see if there's more potential to be uncovered in the game? Like, how would you approach helping a company like this in this kind of situation?
Right. So actually the Robio case is a good example here too. So a RPG title where protagonists are a big part of the story. So if you find something that appeals a lot better in terms of the your target audience, appeals a lot better to them. So then obviously they are more attached to it in the game as well, which improves the retention. We've also seen tests where, for example, you have a word game where you might have meta in it, or you might not. So what we help you to do and allow you to do is to then run these tests and understand actually what would appeal the best with the audience, right? So it could be something like, I've actually used this example before as well. But this is an actual test that we did where we did the marketing audience research, and we were quite sure that okay, none of the competitors have a meta in this context, and especially a meta that's supported by a specific IP. So then we did some research and found out like that dogs were actually by far more liked than cats on states, and it just made sense to add that dog into the mix. And where I'm going with this is that this could be the situation with a small studio. You've had your hunch, you've done exactly the same thought process, and you have your docs in there, and now you're having troubles with day one retention. But then what we did with the test was that that was one of the variants, and another one of the variants was something that was everything was basically ripped off, and it looked just like a old newspaper type of thing. And what ended up happening was that the newspaper type of thing performed so much better. Like I can't even remember the actual percentages, but it was way above like 100% in terms of relative uplift. So again, having that uplift on the marketing, and then also having a product that people already accepted better, then is something that's expected to always lift the retention as well.
Here's a few words from our sponsors.
Welcome to Pollen VC. We offer app publishers flexible lines of credit to help you grow faster and more efficiently. Publishers wait up to 60 days to get paid out by the leading app stores and ad networks. If you're looking to scale your business with paid user acquisition, waiting to get paid before you reinvest back into UA slows your pace of growth. Pollen VC gives you fast access to these unpaid revenues with an easy-to-use line of credit. Faster reinvestment into user acquisition means you can increase your velocity of app installs. No more juggling credit cards or relying on venture capital and diluting your equity just to fund your ad spend. Borrow up to 95% of your revenues every week and only pay interest on what you use, just like a bank overdraft or a credit card. Let us help you boost your cash flow, grow faster, and keep control of your app business. Visit pollen.vc to get started.
Like how much do you think that the day one is actually like influenced by this unoptimized store pages? Like think about like a small studio that hasn't really thought about it at all. Like
Right.
They're making an average, like a casual game, and the team just doesn't realize this. Like how much do you actually think that you can influence the day one?
Right. So it depends a bit on like the sort of mix of where you get your users from. But hypothetically, let's say that you do paid your paid user acquisition, and that's where you get all your users from, or majority of. And what you've done here is that you found a hero creative. You found something that worked really well, and most often that does not correlate 100%, to the actual title. So it can be something, a part of your game that's not in the like TUI or like the first time user experience in the immediate session, but can be something that you unlock a bit further down the line. So what the store page can actually do here, and what you can find out by doing these tests, is to sort of introduce more of your game, more key like selling points, things that are actually present in the first time user experience in the store. Find like a version of your store that introduces these things while still also improving your store conversion. This is totally doable. And then that would educate the users while they are going through your download funnel, so that when they end up on the first time user experience, they've gone from the ad to like having their expectations matched when they first time open the app. So that's definitely something I highly recommend to investigate.
That's a very interesting point. Yeah, expectation matching from the first moment the player sees the product, really. Yeah.
Because we've seen a lot about like these fake ads, like if you will. So basically, I think it was again like Playrix who did this together with Matchington Mansion. Those two like company and game started to compete against each other with this, but like creating these fake puzzles that actually weren't in the game, and then eventually Homescapes actually ended up developing those mini games in the game itself. But yeah.
Makes sense. Hey, another hypothetical thing here. Let's say that somebody's making an action game, and like they're thinking about like what should be the thematics of the game. Is it like war? Is it crime? What is the theme? How could you guys help in this kind of answering these kind of questions?
So this is brilliant, and this is actually something we've also done just quite recently. So again, going back to the Rovio case, the setup is exactly the same, but the content of the variables against each other changes. So what you can do is you can take a mock-up of your game before even starting to develop that full on. You take a mock-up of your game, you do these different versions of that theme, and make like a store page for each of those, and then one ad, and then you just simply run a campaign on among your target audience with those different variables, and you learn what's working and what's not working. And again, these always keep on surprising. So it's always exciting.
Yeah, from that perspective, how well have you seen kind of this improved store metrics pointing to the right thematic and also reflecting to actually improve the retention? Because I might be like repeating myself here a bit with this thinking, but like is it like really well compared to like a honed marketing message really like reflect to better retention?
So the thing with retention is that we've tried to push this a couple of times, but it's technically quite difficult to make up a test that would allow you to A/B test the retention along the line with the marketing message at the same time, because our solution is something between the ad and the real store page, and then you'd still have to get the user to the real store page and then to the actual game, so that you will be able to measure the retention. But in general, we've seen things improve. We haven't seen an A/B test done on it, but we've seen successful project based on it. And as for store metrics and marketing metrics that are the ones that we can measure, so like having 100% uplift is nothing new. That's something that we always see. So if you do like a test where, especially with theme, where the differences are quite big, so 100% is quite average, to be honest. So meaning from like it could be 30% conversion on one of the variants, and then a 60% conversion on another.
Right. That's really good. What, like, thinking about like where you are now with GeekLab, what do you want to sort of like do next for helping developers? Right.
So first of all, as a company as well, we have sort of two core values. One is data accuracy. So that's what we really live for, to make sure that all the tests that you do are reliable. And the other one is cost efficiency. And by that, we mean that we that was something that we wanted to bring to the market, a platform like ours where you could run these campaigns without having to spend $60,000 on the platform cost alone, and always commit to a year. And because we're doing this, and we're allowing more developers to actually run these tests, so there's a lot more tests done on our platform, and where we see value for everyone in the market is that as more and more tests are being done, so we're able to aggregate more and more data, and therefore sort of learn to predict, also segment users better, and learn to predict what's going to happen. So hopefully eventually we'll be able to even tell you, don't test this before you're running to about to test it. And we can guide you on the process of making the hypothesis based on the massive amount of aggregated data that we have available.
Yeah, you guys can invest a lot in machine learning and also automate a lot of this heavy lifting, probably.
Sounds pretty much like our H2 roadmap.
Nice. That's good. Hey, final question before we go to the audience Q&A, and please do people put some questions into the Q&A. So I wanted to ask about the price. Like, if you have a studio with a very small budget, and they want to still get some benefit out of like GeekLab, what's your thoughts there?
Right. So yeah, like mentioned, cost efficiency is something that we live by as well. So what we're actually doing, and we have pre-registration open now on our site, is that we're launching our free tier, which is free for life, as simple as it is. The thing that where we limit there and where you can then get advantages by actually signing up to our subscriptions are that you can get more detailed information about your campaigns. But if you're just looking to find out like, okay, I have a couple of ideas and I just want to find out like which one of these is the best. So then the free tier is for you, and you can actually do that unlimited times. But then jumping into these plans that give you detail and actually more data about like what happened, how did the users behave, what were the difference between the variants. So our platform prices are quite fair, I would say. So they start from around like 250 euros, $300 a month, and are also capped at a certain stage. So you can get into the testing like with competitive pricing, I would say. And then also to add maybe, so we did also just launch our startup program, which is practically we take all the consultants that we know, and much like a theme test that we talked about earlier, and we're heavily involved on the process of making that. And then the cost for that whole project is 1,500 euros upfront. And then you can use those numbers that you get from the test that we've conducted together, and you can then start and try to raise funding and use those numbers in funding. And then once you secure your funding, we charge for an additional 1,500 euros. So that's kind of the startup. There's some limitations to it, so not everyone can apply to it. You have to be at a certain stage as a company to do that, but there's also more info of that on our site. But yeah, it's we truly want to make the transition to tests and being able to learn and fail faster than later, I would say, as accessible as possible. So therefore, we have quite good solutions for everyone.
Yeah. That's good. I really love the fact that you are experimenting with how you can help the developers. That's really good.
All right, thanks.
Man, let's go to Q&A here. So first question here was like, after setting a campaign to test CPIs on the store page, do we have to set a Facebook campaign, or can we do everything from the GeekLab console?
So currently that's one of the things that we have on our roadmap as well, so that you can actually do these tests from the console itself. But currently we do have basically a button that directs you directly to the ads manager with some parameters in shape, and you have to do the campaign yourself. It's a good learning curve if you wanna get into it. We have a learning hub on our dashboard as well that goes into detail on how to do this. And at some stage, I do recommend on doing that yourself, so that gives you a good understanding on how the whole process actually works and how do these user acquisition campaigns on Facebook work. But then, like I said, as we do also have the consultancy side of things, so we do offer management solutions as well, where we can as a company run all those campaigns and everything ourselves.
Right. Got it. Another question here regarding hyper-casual games. Like that recently, hyper-casual publishers stopped testing with fake App Store pages, and they instead try out the games basically as the actual game. So as far as I've heard, they prefer this because routing the players to another game or letting them download the game was like, or not letting them download the game was hurting the IPM. So I know GeekLab is not for hyper casual, but do you think that you see in hyper casual you can be true for other types of games? And in summary, how much do you think showing a GeekLab page hurts the actual IPM?
Good questions. Let's start from the beginning. So Yeah, hyper casuals are in a situation where they have an advantage because the development cycle can be as short as 2 weeks. So they can actually, do these things and do these tests with the relapse. And of course, if you are able to do that, that's always good. That being said, though, we've also worked with hyper casual titles, and for titles that have been out, we've been able to improve the conversion from 60% till 70%. So like 10 absolute percentages, which is quite massive when you talk about marginals, as you might have on hyper casuals. Yeah. And then the last question was about like how the drop-off rate, I guess, from our click to the next download. Unfortunately, there isn't a metric that I could say here because it depends so much in terms of what the test page is to what the actual store page is. So imagine you have like robots and robot dinosaurs on the test page, and then the actual app has dinosaurs and knights. So of course then the drop-off rate is probably close to 90%. Whereas then if you're having the control variant on the test page and all of those users are going to the so dragons and knights on the test page and dragons and knights on the actual store page, so then the drop-off rate can be quite low. But yeah, it always depends on those metrics basically.
Yeah, got it. Question regarding other services. So what's your thoughts on trying to extrapolate testing results with a profiling service like 12 Trades? I don't know if you know 12 Trades, but like
really well. Love the guys and that's actually where I'd start. So that's everything that they have is extremely valuable in the audience research part and coming up with your hypothesis. So you don't have to. They've pre-digested a lot of the information already, so you don't have to build massive expertise around it or do all the research yourself. They've done that already, so you can definitely utilize those on getting some really good shortcuts on the first part of building these tests.
Yeah,
really recommend highly to do that.
Yeah, if somebody doesn't know 12 Trades, just Google 1-2 Trades. It's an amazing player profiling tool. Another question here, is GeekLab providing creative production, or is it mostly like for guidance? Do you or do you have partners that you work with or something like that?
Yeah, both. We do, but it comes a bit like when you go to art style test, for example. So it might make more sense to then at that final stage do or find permanent solutions while you're doing the arts as well, so that you don't find yourself in a situation where you've tested something and now you would be forced to use another vendor to always deliver that. But for example, for theme tests and all this stuff, so we've also done the creatives ourselves, and then we have agencies that can help on that part as well.
Another question here: when testing the thematics of your game, for instance, let's say match 3 with horror theme versus a Candyland theme, one could get better marketability KPIs with the horror theme by doing a smaller test campaign, but that might eventually not scale that high as the Candyland world, regarding like how you can build a big game. Is there a way to estimate these audience sizes for these different themes?
Right. So in terms of audience sizes, so we do like use Facebook Audience Builder to kind of estimate on the size of your targeting, and that's a really good question. I mean, like obviously in the perfect world, what you want to do is you would want to throw in a lot of budgets in and to be absolutely 100% sure that this is as scalable as you'd wish. But not always is that possible due to some budget limitations. But One good thing and really good thing that we've seen on our platform is the repeatability of all these tests. So regardless of what you're testing, so our statistical like confidence rates and those things have proven to be like quite accurate. So the same winners keep on winning, and you can actually make these decisions. We had one case where that product started from like a conversion rate on the store with like around like 25% conversion rate, and after a sequence of 14 tests, so eventually when they then launched that version of the title that they built through the test they did with our platform, the eventual conversion rate was 60%. So they improved from 25 to 60% on the actual store.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So yeah.
I wanted to actually a follow-up question to this one. Like, do you talk about like the audience that you drive to a new game, like distorting the data, like having these golden cohorts where the first batch of players are anyways the best? Like, does it like affect on what you do with the test?
That's precisely where the A/B test part comes for. Like, so you're totally on point there. That's the unfortunate thing that you always see when launching new titles. You see this massive like good cohort like coming in and Facebook optimizing perfect audience towards your product, and
yeah.
the metrics are fantastic, and then the reality kicks in. But when you do these A/B tests, especially with Facebook, you can also do so in terms of like creative tests that Facebook doesn't optimize the different variants like sort of for themselves, but they have that audience pool that they optimize, but that audience pool is the same for each variant. So with that, like it might be the golden cohort, but at the same time it's the golden cohort for each of the variants, and that should reflect the total behavior of your target audience as well.
Got it. Annette is asking here, when creating mock-ups store pages to test concepts, like in the examples that you showed, and then there's no actual store page, people are arriving to this landing page. Like, have you seen any negative outcomes of this, that it's not the actual store page? Like people might not be happy, to go to some kind of like coming soon page or something.
Right. So hi, Annette, by the way, and that's a good question. So one of the like core things here is to make sure that the messaging is in shape. So you have to understand that the user who clicks the download button actually wanted to download the game. So then like wherever you send, if it's a survey on our platform or if it's a landing page, so what you say there is quite crucial. And we have pretty good sort of ways of communicating this. You just have to, be transparent and let them know that we're still developing this game, and you can influence it by answering these couple of questions below. And if you do that properly, so to give context, we have millions of people that we've analyzed, and we do have a chat widget on our site. So if someone would go to geeklab.app, which is also the URL for the survey, so if someone is really mad, so they can actually see who's doing the survey. And even with the chat widget that we have up there, so we've seen 2 people like get really mad on the chat out of the millions that we've analyzed. So it's a small, really small minority of the users. One of the things that you should keep an eye though is that sometimes people they can be quite fast on writing things for the Facebook ad itself in terms of the comments. So sometimes you want to keep the notifications on and just check, so that if that would make the test quite irrelevant if one of the variants would have a lot of comments under it saying that this is a fake app, don't download it. So you might want to go in and hide those comments if that happens. But that's also a few cases that we see this happen.
Yeah. A question here from Peter. Do you segment users? Like, just thinking about the user segments that are coming in, is it mainly like some kind of demographics, or are there any motivations like player behavior? Do you use any 12 traits kind of stuff there?
Right. So yeah, that's like we actually use the Quantic Foundry's 12 traits as sort of the our ground when we did the consultancy or hypothesis. And in terms of like how we segment the users on our platform itself, is that because we are also quite tech easy in a way that we don't require you to implement any SDKs or not, whatnot. So we don't actually get any data from Facebook. All the data that we collect is from our dashboard, our test pages themselves. Your secrets will remain your secrets unless you want to share them with us. So how we segment users on our test pages are basically the two main segments, which is the decisive users and exploring users, where decisive users are users who didn't do anything on the page except either click the download button or left the page immediately, and exploring users might have scrolled or done something on the page. And then in terms of segmenting the users per motivation, that's something you do with the variations. So you might create a specific variant where the key selling point that you're selling is one specific motivations, and another one is another one, and then you measure the performance against each other.
Got it. Hey, this is really good stuff, and this is the last question that we had. So the material will be shared later today. Jesse will grant me like all the material that he can, so we can share it to the audience, and it's going to be on YouTube, this recording, and hopefully as a podcast episode in the near weeks. Any final words from you for the mobile game developers out there?
I know testing sounds scary because there's so many things that you can and especially when developing your game in the first place, you already got your hands full of stuff. But yeah, what you really want to do is that you would want to fail rather earlier than later. And I think it was Joachim, one of your episodes, I can't remember which one it was, but you talked about that the real failure is about failing and then moving forward without reflecting to what you failed upon. And what we allow you to do with these tests is to fail rather earlier than later, and then start that cycle of improvement earlier than you otherwise would. So what I really recommend to do is to start that cycle as early as possible and jump into it. This is an area where you can get really, really good advantages in the market by doing these things rather earlier than later.
Yeah, I love it, man. This is really good. Hey, thanks, Jesse. Hope you have a good day, and all the best to the team, and see you again soon, man.
Likewise. Thanks a lot for having me.
All right. Thanks.
Brilliant.
Bye-bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.